You're listening to the Plain Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
I'm very offended by the chat.
I know.
To be honest.
Well, hello, and welcome to episode number 210 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me in the Barn studio this week, as always, is my co-host Matt Smith.
Indeed, absolutely. Sorry, what I should just explain there is it's that Paul Tricker, who hasn't been in our chat room for a very long time, basically said that it was this thing about, like, I've obviously been out of things for a while, but since when do we start on time? He does have a good point.
He does.
Yeah,
we have started on time a few times in the
usually
past.
when I'm not here, to be fair. Anyway.
So joining us, as always via Skype, it's the wonderful co-host that is Mr. Neville Bounds.
Hello, everybody, and great to be back on the show again from my studio this time. Really enjoyed last week in the Barn studio. Although by the time we'd left, it did smell a lot of kebab, I have to say.
I don't know what you mean.
But we had an awesome bit of grub just before we started, and it was brilliant, actually. Really nice. So missing you guys not being there, but great to be on the show.
We also took him to our local as well, didn't we?
We did.
It's a proper pub, that is, isn't it?
Had a few pints, didn't we? It was very good.
Absolutely.
So welcome to everyone who's joined us on the show this evening. It's Friday, and it's the 30th of March.
I know.
Ooh,
Easter weekend.
I hope you're all
Good Friday here. Yep.
Gorging on Easter eggs and stuff, as you all should be. And well, it's 2 minutes past 7. We started on time, as we said at the top of the show, but loads of people joining us in the live chat room this evening. Loads of names in there, all the usual suspects as always. Shorty Cosgrove, Jennifer has popped in there, Jordan Rose, Liz Piper, Lane Street, Dr. Steph. She's apparently watching the show. I think she's driving home.
Yes, she is.
Bit worried about that. Paul Tricker. Paul,
she's listening to the show.
It's been a long time, Paul. We haven't seen you for a while,
absolutely.
but welcome back, Paul. Our main man, Micah, as well, is also in the chat room. Jordan Rose, I think I mentioned Jordan. Evan Shue, as well, who's in the chat room, just scrolling up. Richard King. Hello, Richard King. Pilot Pip. Pilot Pip's currently on location somewhere in the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
So I hope you're having a good holiday, Pip, anyway, where you are. And I think I've mentioned everyone. I'm just scrolling up.
Julian Garwood was in.
Julian
Garwood was in earlier. Yeah.
Hello, Julian. Yes, and so welcome to everyone who's joined us on the live stream tonight. We've got loads of stories in the news this week, and we've also got a really great segment from the MPE, from Nev's Passenger Experience segment this week as well. And we also have some voice feedback, which is from Captain Nick, which is regarding a certain subject from last week's show, which you're all going to enjoy, I think.
Do we put this into the category of negative feedback?
Possibly, absolutely.
Critical
picking me up, basically. I don't even remember doing it. That's the really bad thing. Anyway, all become apparent later in the show.
And we also, this week, have some voice feedback, which is actually an interview that was done by
Andrew Wilson.
Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, he actually sent it in, and I'm sorry it's taken us a couple of weeks to get it out, but we've had sort of quite a busy few shows here, so it's the first opportunity we've had to put it out. But really good interview. Looking forward to do that.
Andrew's speaking to Mark Lewis following a lecture he gave at the Royal Aeronautical Society. So that's going to be really good. I'll listen to that.
Yeah,
it's
looking
really,
forward
really
to
good.
That,
So as for studio improvements, just a quick update on how the PTUK studio is doing. Well, it's moving along.
Certainly is.
Moving along. We've I had a little 3 hours yesterday.
Small 3 hours.
Small 3 hours yesterday here at the barn. Putting in some soundproofing, which is very similar to the soundproofing that Nev's got behind him.
Indeed.
Behind it. So if you see, there we go.
Indeed.
There's Nev. He's busy tapping away.
The egg box is
the egg box. So very similar to that. But the only thing is, ours is pink currently.
No, it's going to be black.
But it's going to be black by the time we've finished spraying it all up. But no, it's the studio's coming along very well. We're moving swiftly along. We've got a few more finishing touches to do until before we put the desk in and all the various
and then
bits
start
and stuff.
cabling the night.
And then cabling, and then after that, it's going to be kind of, only a matter of a few weeks until we hit the the go live button, I suppose, for the new studio.
Absolutely, for the very first time, yes. And well, of course, last week we took delivery of a rather marvellous gift from the APG crew, didn't we? Which was...
Yes, Nev, tell us about that gift we got.
Well, I was talking to Jeff about the new studio, Captain Jeff about the new studio, and he said, do you think the lads would fancy an on-air light? I said, that's very nice of you, Jeff. I think they probably would. Thank you very much indeed. So not only did he send one down to the studio, but he sent one to me as well. So outside my studio, I have a very bright on-air light, which looks as though I'm in, well, frankly, one of the places in Amsterdam.
You're right, indeed, yes. Mrs. Nev is very concerned, isn't she?
So we're going to have to think about the lighting a bit for the new studio, but that's very nice of you indeed, Jeff.
Amazing,
We all really
thank you,
Jeff.
Thanks
ever so much.
We've got some great ideas about what we're going to do. And in answer to Liz's question in the chat, she's saying, will there be a grand opening? I think the short answer is we're going to have one.
I think we will have to have a grand opening. Yeah, we're going to have to put some thought into what we're going to do, I suppose, for our first episode in the new studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got a few ideas in my head that we were talking about earlier, so it could be exciting times. Anyway, so enough about all that drivel.
So quick catch up then with what we've all been up to. Nev, what's your week been like?
As usual, when it comes to Easter, we all try and cram 5 days' work into 4, and it certainly felt like it this week, I can tell you. I was so tired yesterday, tired of a couple of my clients. It would be particularly difficult, but we're not going to mention them.
Do they not? Oh, please name names. No.
But then next week, of course, we've got another 4-day week, which is obviously great for us. But, again, we seem to cram loads of stuff into a short period of time. But
clients do like leaving things to the last minute, don't they?
They do, don't they? But never mind.
What about you, Carlos? What have you been up to this week?
Oh, same as what Nev just said, cramming a stock take at work into 4 days, plus doing the usual jobs with various different kind of metalworks and stuff that I have to deal with, and unloading and loading lorries on the forklift and
first world problems.
All the rest of it, and I've got to go back to work next Tuesday, and we're having a metal checking kind of rebrief. Well, for some of the aspects of the work I have to do, we build the components that make MRI scanners. So the big MRI scanners that you go into the tunnel in and blah 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 and this that and the other. And all the fasteners that we use on those have to be non-magnetic. So every 6 months we have to have magnetic training. So we have to learn how to hold a magnet and then hold a nut or a bolt and go, oh, yeah, it's all right.
Right, okay.
So,
right, it sounds very stressful, Carlos.
And how about you, Matt? What have you been coaching, busing, driving?
I have, actually. I did a day trip to London on Wednesday, which took me a little bit by surprise. That was quite nice. And then, Thursday was just a normal day in the office. Today I've just come back from going down to Henley, down near Nev's neck of the woods, down that end, and that was quite nice. Went to the Boating and Rowing Museum, which was nice. It's got sort of things about Matthew Pinsent and Steve Redgrave and all about the Olympics and obviously the Cambridge boat race and all that kind of thing. So very interesting. And then tomorrow I'm off to Stansted to help move Owen.
Owen's moving.
Yes, to New Digs. So I'm borrowing the TriStar van.
Yes, the van is out tomorrow with Matt.
To go and do very important jobs, moving our favourite Harpjet cabin crew to New Digs. So there we are.
I can confirm I did give the TriStar van a good clean inside.
Well, that was clearly a waste of time, wasn't it?
Ready for your for usement tomorrow.
Oh, right. Well, royalty, obviously. When you
and the hard drive in the van is filled up with lots of tunes for you. So
excellent.
There we go.
Well, there we are. Anyway, none of this has anything to do with aviation whatsoever. So we probably ought to have a little bit of a shift change. Yeah.
So we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
I am, yes.
And if you're ready, Nev.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story. This one is on the BBC News website. So it's obviously, very worthy website because it's BBC News.
BBC.
And
Dear Auntie,
I know. So this story then, this is, we've all seen the programmes on telly, the various bailiff stories where they the bailiffs go in and remove stuff from people's houses when they can't pay their bills. Well, the headline, air passengers sending bailiffs to airlines. So bailiffs are being sent into airline offices because companies are failing to pay passengers compensation for flight delays and cancellations. Thousands of court rulings ordering compensations have been ignored by airlines, including EasyJet, Thomson, which is now TUI. In one case, bailiffs even boarded a plane.
What?
EasyJet says it's changing its policies about claims, while TUI has launched an investigation. Bailiffs are arriving at the offices of leading UK airlines, and staff are paying on the spot with debit or credit cards. An investigation by You and Yours has found that if staff fail to pay up, the bailiffs can remove and sell their office equipment and furniture. In one case, bailiffs boarded a plane belonging to the European airline, which, well, it possibly could have been an orange-coloured one, and prevented it from taking off until the owners paid up. Since 2005, EU rules state that passengers who have had their flights cancelled or delayed 3 hours or more are entitled to compensation of around £500, depending on the flight. But when they put their claims in, many passengers have found that the airlines ignore them. As a result, some passengers have turned to lawyers to get compensation, but they too have been ignored. TUI Airways and EasyJet have now thousands of unpaid county court judgments against them. When You and Yours searched official records, there were so many outstanding court orders against EasyJet and TUI Airways that the official websites crashed. Now new court judgments are being registered against TUI Airways at a rate of around 20 a day. Some passengers have turned to solicitors, including Bot & Co., which acts on behalf of flight delay clients, and in some cases sends bailiffs to recover compensation. Passengers shouldn't have to go to lawyers at all to get what they're owed, solicitor Corby Benson told the programme. The airlines ignore solicitors who present a formal letter of compensation, then ignore the court proceedings, and finally they ignore the court judgment against them as well, he said. He added that airlines think they can bury their heads in the sand thinking that the problem is going to go away, but that's not the case. Blot & Co., which describes bailiffs as a last resort, says they've sent them to airlines offices dozens of times. In a statement, TUI Airways told You and Yours that we're extremely concerned and disappointed by the volume of these judgments. It added that they're conducting a full and thorough investigation to understand what has happened to and how to resolve them. EasyJet have said, historically we have chosen not to defend all EU 261 county court cases in certain circumstances. However, it added, we have recently reviewed that approach and this is no longer the case. The programme You and Yours is on BBC Radio 4 weekdays 12:15 until 1. So
that's this is a really worrying story, isn't it? I mean, I
think I'd be a bit worried if I was on board the jet and the bailiffs came on board and started removing seats and the computer systems.
It's just like, but EasyJet said historically we have chosen not to defend all EU 261 county court. I mean, you can't really defending them or not is the irrelevant thing, isn't it? Is the fact is if there's been a county court judgment made against you and you don't adhere to it, then the next step is bailiffs. I mean, it just doesn't. There's a serious.
What do you think of this, Nev?
I think this is probably a little bit opportunist, but at the end of the day, the EU 261 ruling is in place to deal with these situations. And of course, the problem is that the turnaround time of especially the low-cost carriers and some others as well, if something goes wrong at the start of the day for one of the aircraft or the crew goes sick, that's it. The schedule is messed up for the whole day. And of course, if that aircraft is scheduled to fly, 4 or 5 sectors maybe, that's a big problem for the airline.
It is.
But the whole point of that EU 261 compensation ruling is to deal with exactly that situation.
It is, absolutely. And I just like, with some of us have all been there, where we've had problems with money and that kind of thing. But it's just like the last thing you do is ignore it. You have to acknowledge it and at least liaise with them in regard to putting. I just seems such a Did they? Do you think? Are they sort of thinking that maybe they won't go to the expense of sending in bailiffs and things like that? That's the only logical reason I can think of why you would just ignore it.
But when you look at this, the compensation that says on the story it's around £500 or thereabouts for the compensation. You know, these airlines, these are big airlines. TUI's huge. You know, EasyJet's huge, and a lot of the European carriers are big airlines. You know, they make £500 a second, millisecond.
Right.
They make this money in seconds, and for them not to just sort of say, well, we'll just pay the £500 and be done with it, it's bizarre.
Indeed. Oh well. Anyway, on to the next
story.
This is on themirror.co.uk. Again, another newspaper we all go to for our aviation-related news. Story 2, obviously, is Ryanair, as always, and the headline is "Bride-to-be on Hindu gives tipsy safety demo on Ryanair flight in front of bemused passengers." I can only imagine. So, a bride-to-be kicked off her Hindu in style as she gave passengers an alternative safety briefing ahead of their flight. Wearing a veil tiara with the word bride and a stewardess jacket, 26-year-old Tara helped cabin crew with a hilarious demonstration on the Ryanair service from Brussels to Barcelona. With a little help from a steward, she points out the exits to fellow flyers, demonstrates how to put seatbelts on, and also how to inflate the life jacket. The Belgian natives' friends are heard giggling throughout the video, and also shows where in front of the seat pocket, the front seat pocket where the safety card is. This is a bit of a bizarre. There's loads of sort of photographs and stuff, and I'll play you a video in a minute. This video was uploaded by Tara's friend Julie Mariner, who can be heard laughing uncontrollably behind the camera. She later tweeted the video with the caption, "Thank you, Ryanair, for helping us make her bachelorette extra special." Speaking afterwards, the communications professional told the Irish Sun, "We woke her up yesterday at 6 in the morning so she could pack her suitcase, and we dressed her up as a flight attendant. When we boarded, we asked the crew if she could help with the flight instructions since she was dressed like them." Now, I won't read any more because obviously you get the gist of this story. How do we all feel about that, just out of interest?
When I saw the story, I thought this is typical. This is one of those. I thought when I first initially saw the story, I thought this is a Jet2 story.
Right.
But obviously, it could be. It's got to be a Ryanair story. Yeah. But no, this. I mean, Nev. I mean, it looks kind of naughty, but
well, imagine that if something did go wrong. You know, I mean, was there a proper safety briefing afterwards, after the mucking about one? I don't know, but if something had gone wrong on takeoff and they needed to evacuate the aircraft quickly, I know hopefully most people know how to get off if it all does go wrong, but I just think some of this stuff is, I know it's a lot of fun, but I just think you've got to, safety is safety, isn't it? And you can't muck about with it.
Indeed.
I mean, I think on the whole aircraft, if you had a whole entire 737-800 of passengers, and you, after the safety briefing, said, to all the passengers, honestly, out of everyone on the aircraft, put your hands up if you actually took notice and listened and watched the safety briefing. I wonder how many hands would be in the air.
Well, yeah, indeed. This is the thing. I mean, it is a bit questionable. I mean, it is fun. To be fair, I mean, we're watching the video now. I mean, they are going through the motions. I mean, everything, all the boxes are being ticked in regard to the safety demo, aren't they? But I don't know. I don't know. I feel. I don't know. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure how I feel about that. I really don't. But there we go. Anyway, you get the gist.
You get the gist there. And a safety kind of thing. It would be interesting to hear from some cabin crew as to what they think about that.
Indeed. Anyway, on to the next story. That would be you, Sir Nev.
It is, and this is on the incentivetravel.co.uk. And cleverly enough, they've made the font absolutely tiny, so I've had to zoom it up here. But there we are. And it's a British Airways story, which we always like, of course. And BA have launched a new non-stop service to Las Vegas from London Gatwick yesterday, which was actually the 27th of March. The flight will operate 3 times a week from the 26th of October 2018 and is expected to have an overall economic impact of nearly $49 million to southern Nevada. As an essential market for Las Vegas, visitation from the United Kingdom remains strong and is the top source for overseas visitation to the destination and 3rd overall internationally. In 2016, we welcomed more than 753,000 guests from the United Kingdom to Las Vegas. That does not surprise me at all. But actually, normally it's reasonably inexpensive to get there. And Carlos is just doing a bit of looking at the flight pricing and what have you. And if you're flying out on Saturday and returning the following Saturday from London Heathrow, as an example, it's £1,403 in economy and a bargain basement £10,208 in business class, but I think you might have to book it a bit earlier.
Yeah, I think you might.
Fares there, but yeah, it remains a huge destination. I should be going out there myself for our trade show in June, it's a very popular destination, and every flight I've ever been on to Las Vegas has been absolutely chock-a-block.
Indeed. In fact, actually, we'll be returning to trade shows and indeed Las Vegas later on in the show as we welcome a couple of people who have just come back from a trade show, probably the same place where you're going, to be fair, Nev, who came back a couple of weeks ago, where it has to be said, they didn't have the best experience with this exact same airline. Not from Gatwick, it has to be said, because this one was from Heathrow. But anyway, more to come with that later.
So the next story is on the sfgate.com.
Another quality,
SanFranciscoGate.com. And the headline, and there's some pictures to go with this as well. The first look inside... Did not read your show notes, Mr. Smith.
Of course I did.
First look inside Hong Kong Airlines' first A350. So for those of you who have the chance to fly on Hong Kong Airlines on their new A350-900 to celebrate the new non-stop flights, the airline and airport threw a big party and allowed the photographers on board for a look at the business and economy class cabins. Their first take on the cabins were they're very red. Take a stroll through the slideshow, which Matt is just going to do for you there. As you can see, if you're in the YouTube chat room, you'll be able to see the pictures of this A350-900. It holds 334 passengers in business and economy classes only. There's no first class and no premium economy. However, there are several rows of more legroom in economy at the front of the cabin. On its website, the airline says its economy seats offer 3 different pitches, 31, 32 and 34 inches, and seats are configured in a 3-3-3 configuration. In business class, the best seats for single flyers are window seats on even numbered rows. For couples, the best seats are in the centre for odd numbered rows, and the seats are configured in a 1-2-1 in business class, and all offer direct aisle access. The best business class seats are in row 20. And oddly, Seat Guru and similar sites do not yet have this A350 seat map on their website. Wi-Fi is available on Hong Kong Airlines A350s as they come online, and when checking in for the flight at SFO's International Terminal Gate A, agents were offering upgrades from economy class into business class for just $678 for the 12 to 14 hour flight. I think that would be definitely worth it. Well, yeah, I can think you could definitely say by those pictures, Matt, that is a very red...
Quite red, isn't it?
A very red interior.
It is, yes.
It definitely does. But
I'm assuming this is business class as well.
I think this is probably business class, yeah.
I was going to say, it's sick bag. Gotta love a sick bag.
There we go. We're moving into the economy section now.
And again, it's very red.
Incredibly red.
It is, yes. With a little bit of grey, sort of, the headrests and stuff. It's I don't know. It does look quite cosy in there. I've got to be honest. There's a lot of seats in there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I haven't had the chance to fly on the 350 yet.
Somebody explain me to the 350. How does that compare to say something like the 380?
Well, the 380 is a double-decker,
Right.
as we know. You've seen that at Farnborough.
I have, yes.
The big 4-engine double-decker. The 350 is what some people would say is like kind of like the direct competition for the Dreamliner, the 787.
Right, okay.
They're very similar looking aircraft indeed, yeah. But like I said, if any of our listeners at all in the chat room, or any of our listeners at all who download and listen to the show, if you've had the chance to fly on the A350, do give us a bit of feedback. Send us in some audio feedback, and we'd love to hear what your views are on the A350 as opposed to the 787.
Yeah, absolutely,
So moving on to the next story. Matt, this one's for you.
Yeah, this is on the Air and Cosmos international website, and the headline is EasyJet signs up for Skywise. Airbus has signed a 5-year agreement with EasyJet to provide predictive maintenance services for the carrier's entire fleet of almost 300 aircraft. So Airbus has signed a 5-year agreement with EasyJet to provide predictive maintenance services for the carrier's entire fleet of almost 300 aircraft. The technology relies on Airbus's Skywise data platform, which is designed to allow engineers to intervene early and replace parts before failure, thereby reducing the risk of delays and cancellations. The agreement follows extensive EasyJet trials of the Skywise platform. Skywise can now analyse data from other components on EasyJet's aircraft thanks to the installation of Airbus's newly released Flight Operations and Maintenance Exchanger, FOMAX, said to collect 60 times more data than existing systems. The new equipment will be fitted on EasyJet's fleet by summer 2019, so basically by more or less this time next year then, by the sound of it. The UK carrier joins carriers like AirAsia, Asiana and Etihad, who have already signed onto the Skywise platform. In related news, Airbus announced in an agreement with the FPT software to strengthen development of the Skywise ecosystem in Asia. So the deal includes a training program for third-party users and software developers. Airbus launched the Skywise Aviation data platform at the 2017 Paris Air Show in collaboration with Palantir Technologies, pioneers in big data integration and advanced analytics. Skywise aims to provide users with a single access point to their enriched data by bringing together aviation information from multiple sources into one secure cloud-based platform, physically hosted in Europe. I mean, that's quite an interesting
I thought
sort of tech
for
tweak,
you,
really.
Matt, that's why I picked the story. This is quite interesting because the whole system is kind of a way of Airbus learning through data supplied by the airlines as to how the parts are performing and how they're wearing out and stuff, and just reading into the whole Skywise thing, it's going to save, I'd imagine it would save the airlines quite a lot of money, because they'll be able to take the aircraft offline briefly to replace a part that may be wearing out and before it needs really replacing. But what do you think of this, Nev? It's quite a bit of good tech kind of stuff, this.
So it's all what it's all about, isn't it? Predictive maintenance and trying to prevent things from going wrong, or seeing when something is about to go wrong, so actually fix the problem next time the aircraft's on the ground to turn it around again. And we do that in our business, actually. We do a lot of remote access of audio-visual systems around the world. Doesn't matter where you are. As long as you've got that access, you can find out all sorts of information about what systems are doing. So I think it's a really important thing, especially when it comes to maintenance.
I must admit, I'm surprised that this isn't something that is being done more readily. Do you know what I mean with systems like this? Because I mean, obviously, even with the Boeings and things, I mean, they're collecting data all the time, aren't they? I mean,
certainly in terms of the airframes, but also the engines.
Yeah, I think
Rolls-Royce get the data reported back to them at their HQ in Derby. It tells you exactly all the parameters of the engines and what's going on. So it's very, very clever. So this is just an extension of that, I guess.
Yeah.
It says a story actually says on here the A350 has 250,000 sensors monitoring various aspects of the airframe. I mean, that must take one heck of a bit of software, Matt, to processing to.
That's quite a database, isn't it?
do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's but again, I mean, as we know from all sort of things with your car and things, preventative maintenance is always much cheaper than having to take something out of service long term while you replace key engine parts. I mean, it's surely it's a no brainer, and all airlines should be participating really. But
So, Nev, the next story.
Yeah, this is on the traveller.com.au website, and it's all about the Boeing 787-10 Dreamliner. And Singapore Airlines, known for its luxurious high-end service, has unveiled its newest cabin interior for the Dash 10. The refreshed cabin, including a new regional business class seat, was shown to the public for the first time on the company's brand new 787 aircraft that arrived to Singapore after a 24-hour journey from Charleston, South Carolina in the US. Singapore's new interior for the 337-seat plane includes 36 lie-flat seats in business class and 301 seats in economy. The Dash 10 is Boeing's largest variant yet of its new age Dreamliner, and the Dash 10 is stretched 16 feet longer than the 787-9, giving capacity for about 30 additional passengers in a typical layout. The plane that arrived to Singapore on Wednesday is the first of 49 that Singapore Airlines has ordered from Boeing. And the plane was delivered to Singapore Airlines in South Carolina on Sunday before leaving for the carrier's headquarters. It's the first Dash 10 to be delivered. In taking the new plane, Singapore designed a new cabin interior that will be installed on all of its 787-10s. The Dash 10s will fly regional routes for the carrier, but that doesn't mean the short hops that North American travellers might think of. For a long-hauled focus airline like Singapore Airlines, regional means flights of up to 8 hours on twin-aisle wide-bodies planes. And Singapore is frequently cited as one of the world's most luxurious airlines, and its cabin overhaul for the 787-10 was meant to maintain that high-end feel that the company is known for. The first routes that Singapore has earmarked for its Dash 10s are from its hub in Singapore to Osaka in Japan and Perth, Australia. The aircraft could take over service on these routes by May. Initially, however, the plane will be deployed on shorter flights to Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok, so crews can become familiar with the new aircraft type. And in the business cabins on Singapore Airlines Dash 10, those seats convert into 76-inch long full flat beds. The width of the seats comes in at 26 inches, although they're about 6 inches narrower until the movable armrests are lowered up to free up more space. Seats are staggered in a 1-to-1 configuration that ensures each customer has direct access to the aisle. Each is forward-facing and includes 18-inch full high-definition touchscreen monitors, in-seat power options, and compartments for stowing items like wallets, cell phones, and chargers. And just give you an idea of how the economy section fares, that's also been refreshed on the regional Dreamliners, and although there's no premium economy section in the carrier's 787-10 configuration, the seats are arranged in a typical 3-3-3 layout, each with power options for customers' devices. And seatback entertainment screens for Singapore's economy customers measure 11.6 inches and are full HD with touchscreen control. And the updated Dash 10 economy cabin has been done in a blue and grey colour scheme. So that's taking it very seriously, aren't they?
They are indeed.
This new aircraft, and they once again are trying to set the standard, aren't they?
So I just brought the picture back up, actually, for those of you watching on YouTube. Again, if you look for this story online, the pictures are worth a look if you are listening to the audio version of the show. This is the thing that we're looking at the back here. So this is an economy, so this isn't even in the fancy seats, if you like. But I mean, all your light controls and everything are to the left-hand side of it. But what I love is that there is USB power there for you, so that's charging of virtually all devices there, isn't it? It's brilliant. But also somewhere where you can plug in.
The Dash 10's a very long aircraft as well. It's a 16-foot stretch over the Dash 9. It looks impressive, doesn't it? I must say.
Actually, one of the low-tech things I saw in that picture, Matt, which I think is quite important as well, is when
cup
you're
holder.
yeah exactly when you're
gotta love a cup holder
when you're watching the film and you want to have a drink and with your bottle of scotch and your stuff, your
bottle of scotch,
and
right, okay.
and you don't want to have your tray table down.
No.
That's great because there's a
It's
separate cup holder
as
so you
part
haven't
of
got to
it,
have
yeah.
a massive tray table down in your lap
Yeah.
all the time. So that's
It's
a really good idea.
nice refit, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like
as
that.
you saw the pictures as we were going through it, it's a really nice refit, and as you say, they are quite well known for doing impressive refits and stuff. And quite often you find that people later on have their refits done to these specifications because it is lovely. Even in economy, it looks great.
I think there's quite a few people in the chat room who have all sort of agreed that that they want to try the Singapore Airlines their kind of
what sort of business
product.
class?
Yeah. Well, business. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
I think Jennifer says, Mike Kay says, my brother and his family will be flying A350 to South Korea in June in business class.
Oh, lovely.
Ooh, very nice.
Very good.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's what we like to
Yeah, we like that. That's good. But no, I think we should book a flight to Singapore for next year.
Right, okay.
Live show
Well
from
done,
there.
everyone.
Oh, did I say I'm winning the lottery this weekend?
Can we finish building the studio
Yeah,
first
yeah, yeah.
before you start?
We'll finish the studio.
Yeah, thank you.
So moving on to the next story. This one is on the outerplaces.com website. That's an interesting site.
If you say so.
And this is a story that's been on quite a few different news platforms this week. And two airline pilots in different planes say they spotted the same UFO flying over the New Mexico border. So for every 10 blurry photos of a crashed alien aircraft near Antarctica or Mylar, party balloons are mistakenly identified as flying saucers. There's usually one UFO incident that actually seems worth investigating. This recent run-in between two airline pilots and an identified object over the New Mexico border is one of them. Here's what we know. On the 24th of February, a Learjet pilot flying for Phoenix Air with the tail number November 71 Papa Golf was cruising at 37,000 feet when something passed over his aircraft moving fast. He said, "I don't know what it was. It was an airplane, but it was. The path was going in the opposite direction," he says, in a conversation with the ATC. Then controller contact the pilot of an American Airlines flight 1095 and told him to keep a lookout for something passing over his aircraft. The American Airlines captain was initially confused, but after a few minutes he too reported something flying overhead. "Yeah," he said, "something passed just over us. I don't know what it was," he said, "but it was at least 2,000 or 3,000 feet above us." And he said, "Yeah, it passed right over us." When asked whether the object was moving or hovering, the pilot responded, and he couldn't make out whether it was a balloon or whatnot, he said.
It's definitely not a balloon.
Not a whatnot either.
It's not a balloon.
But it was just really beaming light, or it could have been a big reflection, and it was several thousand feet above, going in the opposite direction. And it's interesting to note that a third pilot reportedly jumps in on the conversation, calling the UFO object a UFO, although he seems like he's joking. According to a spokesperson for the FAA, we have a close working relationship with a number of other agencies and safe handle military aircraft and civilian aircraft of all types in that area every day, including high-altitude weather balloons. Meanwhile, Bob Tracy,
Definitely
the vice president of the Phoenix Air Group, said the Learjet pilot said the only thing that was different about this was that it was just so bright. The glare was so intense they couldn't make it out. And there's actually, on this website, there's actually a 1 minute 35 recording of the ATC transmissions here, which they heard at the time. But
I mean, we're looking at this picture that's attached to this story here. I mean, that must be just a prototype fighter or something.
I think that's just a made-up photo. Just to
you think it's a made-up photo?
I think that's possibly a made-up photo. Yeah.
Oh wow! Ooh, there we are. You heard it here first.
But there's always. I mean, there's. We're not alone in the world. I don't know. We're.
Oh hello.
Oh hello.
Right. No. Is it you?
No.
Yeah. No. I think that's a bit brave, isn't it?
What's that?
Well, you know.
We're not alone.
Bold statement like that.
Yeah, I know. I used to watch my X-Files.
Oh dear. Right.
Many years ago.
Obviously, what happens in there obviously is very
true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, Mulder and Scully exist. And
what do you reckon, Nev? Are we alone?
As Jen says in the chat room, she wants to believe. And I would quite like to believe as well. But the trouble is these things, I mean, whether it's the Loch Ness Monster, whether it's UFO, it almost doesn't matter what it is. There's always the possibility of photo manipulation, shall we say.
Cool.
And there's also the possibility of lots of scare stories and other things as well. But sometimes you just never get to the bottom of these stories, do you?
What I want to know is if we aren't alone in the world and there are other people who are coming to visit the UK, you know, not just the UK but like the world, you know, I just hope that they're here to get drunk and enjoy themselves. Do you know what I mean? I don't want them, you know, I want them coming here and enjoying our fine beers. I don't want them here picking a fight.
No, they heard about the show. They're just coming here to download the show.
They can retrieve it from the ether. They don't need to visit to listen to our fabulous podcast.
So moving swiftly on, before the aliens come and take us away,
right, okay.
Matt, this one is a bit of a techie.
Indeed, yes. So this is on the Real Wire website, and the headline is EasyJet chooses Panasonic ToughPad FZ F1 to improve customer boarding times. That's an odd statement. So anyway, Panasonic today announced that EasyJet, Europe's leading airline, has deployed Panasonic ToughPad FZ F1 handheld devices at Geneva Airport as an alternative to using airport fixed equipment to scan tickets and pre-board passengers ahead of flights. The new mobile solution ensures pre-flight boarding can take place quickly and efficiently when the boarding gates are changed at short notice, minimising any potential delays. Due to the success of the new system, EasyJet is now considering rolling out the solution to other airports in Europe. EasyJet's IT team was originally challenged to find a new departure gate solution that provided a more flexible and cost-efficient solution for pre-boarding passengers at Geneva Airport. There was an opportunity to reduce costs, but we also saw the opportunity to improve and increase the flexibility of our pre-flight boarding process, says Graham Cottrell, who is the business analyst in operation systems at EasyJet. With a mobile solution, EasyJet staff can much more easily handle short notice changes to departure gates, for example by setting up temporary pre-flight boarding areas, minimising any potential delays. EasyJet has developed its own application to run on Panasonic ToughPad's FZ F1 handheld devices. The new mobile solution ensures pre-flight boarding can take place quickly and efficiently even when boarding gates are changed at short notice, minimising any potential delays. Due to the success of the new system, EasyJet is now considering rolling out the solution to other airports in Europe. It seems to be repeating itself here. The application was developed on EasyJet's own in-house team, but they looked externally to find they looked externally to find a provider for the actual handheld technology. The Panasonic device was initially interesting to us because it had an integrated barcode reader. We ran a trial with a number of devices and our agents were raving about the new Panasonic device, said Graham. They found it much easier to use because of the angle of the barcode reader, the size and the clarity of the screen, and the design. It felt much easier to use when in the hand. With the barcode reader, our agents can just hover the reader over the paper or mobile phone to scan a boarding pass without having to rotate their arm. It may sound trivial, but when scanning hundreds of passes a day, this can make a significant difference to the speed and comfort of our agents. After selecting the Panasonic device, the team worked closely with Panasonic to optimize the solution. The collaboration between ourselves and Panasonic has been particularly great, from answering all of our questions and queries to loaning devices for trial and listening to feedback about using specific uses in this case. So I mean, it's a sort of interesting piece of technology there. Although I don't want to
take the wind out of anybody's sails here, and I'm a great Panasonic fan of all sorts of products, but my
cameras
local
especially,
supermarket's got this, and when I go and buy my shopping, they scan the barcode. It's brilliant. Is this new technology? Really?
It is. I mean, so the device that I'm looking at here, it very much looks like basically a mobile phone. I mean, it just looks like a toughened sort of mobile phone. It's got a nice little rubber sort of case around the outside here, it's. I mean, I suppose, I mean, couriers, to be honest with you, have been using something very similar for quite a long time, haven't they, in regard to their things. So the only bit that makes me a little bit nervous is it's based on Windows 10. So that's never a good sign, is it? But
I think, I think it was Micah, I think, that said in the chat room, when you're boarding an aircraft and it decides to do a Windows update,
that would be annoying, wouldn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably. I find myself defending Windows. I can't believe I'm even saying this. It's probably a specific build, I would imagine, for that. platform, so it's not doing any funny updates.
Yeah, I mean the tech specs are quite interesting. So it's got for anybody who's interested, probably just me to be fair, but you're going to hear it anyway. So it's got a 4G receiver inside the device, so it'll handle both 4G and 3G with voice capability. So you could call someone if you needed to. It's got a barcode reader, as it says. An interesting processor actually. Now this is a processor you would normally find in quite high-powered tablets, actually, which is quite, so it's got plenty of bang for the buck, if you see what I mean, plenty of capability there to do other things. But then I suppose it's Windows, so it has to have plenty of processing power. 2 gig of RAM, 16 gig of storage, but with a micro SD slot, so you can expand the storage. 4.7 inch HD, so it's 1280 by 720 screen, so it's very basically it's just a mobile phone based on Windows 10 essentially. But yeah, again, sort of 8 megapixel rear and 5 megapixel front cameras. But what I think is good here is a user replaceable battery, so you can actually do what they call a warm swap as well. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all the other bits and pieces that you'd usually expect. So they are basically glorified handsets.
And apparently you can sling this into water.
Again, I don't think I'd recommend that as a part of the testing process.
Actually, all the Panasonic sort of Tough series, they get used in for the MOD, all sorts of things. So they're very ruggedized versions of some of their consumer products. So you could chuck them around.
I mean, one of my friends had one of the Tough books it was a notebook, but it was a Tough book. And the only major criticism I had about that, other than the fact it was quite old because it was based on Windows XP, I think actually this particular one, is the screen was appalling. It didn't have the resolution so, and that was one thing I said to him, is if they can nail that, because I mean he did used to literally, that's why his boss ended up buying him one in the end, because every time he just dropped it constantly, and went through like 3 laptops in 3 months or something stupid. And they bought him this Tough book, and it outlived his time there. I mean, it was just like amazing.
So the next story then, Nev.
Well, this is a bad news and good news story at the same time, interestingly. Indeed, so this is from the news.com.au website, and it says that a Canadian man may be charged 22,700 Australian dollars after his drunken and disorderly behaviour caused the aeroplane to make an emergency return to the airport whilst accompanied by 2 F-15 US Air Force jets. Charlabus Nasios pleaded guilty to charges of assault, mischief and uttering threats during the Cuba-bound Sunwing flight last summer. The 40-year-old man will be sentenced on April the 18th, and prosecutors are requesting Nasios pays damages and serves 3 years probation, according to court documents CTV News reported. The massive fine factors in aeroplane fuel, landing fees, overtime salaries for Sunwing employees, and hotel costs for the 170 stranded passengers. The incident happened on July the 6th, 2017, when the Sunwing flight left Pierre Trudeau International Airport in Montreal for Cuba. Nasios allegedly began making threats and acting aggressively on board, CTV News reported. For the safety of the passengers, the flight turned around shortly after takeoff and returned to the airport. The flight arrived back around 7:25 p.m. the same evening, and the disruptive customer was taken into police custody, the Canadian airliner said in a news release at the time, CTV reported. Didn't know airliners could speak, but there you go. The airline also contacted the FAA for assistance. 2 US Air Force jets accompanied the plane back to the airport. If a threat is determined to be credible, the FAA may offer an escort, a North American Aerospace Defense Command spokesman told Newsweek. But no, that's not a common occurrence. His lawyer is arguing against Nasio having to foot the airliner's bill, saying it will put obstacles in his future path. Yes, correct answer. According to Newsweek, Nasio has filed for bankruptcy and entered Alcoholics Anonymous. Giving up alcohol was part of Nasios's plea deal, CTV reported. Well, it's about time, isn't it? It's about time we actually saw some serious fines handed out to these people, because apart from the disruption and the safety implication, the cost to the airlines of a diversion is absolutely astronomical, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, and you know, those fees are there for a reason, etc., etc. But you know, when it is something that is completely out, you know, not their fault at all, they shouldn't have to be the ones footing the bill for stuff like this. I could think it completely, and I think people like EasyJet, Ryanair, and Jet2, they can all, you know, they really need to start pushing this themselves, because it isn't, you know. The only way that these idiots are going to stop doing this is if they know it's going to cost them the equivalent of their house. If they don't, $22,700, not enough. He should be in prison and everything. But you know, it's, you know, we all like a drink. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think everybody involved in the show and listening online and that, you know, we all love a beer, but we know when it's appropriate and we know when to stop, don't we? I mean, it's just like, hello, Nev's having a drink. Look, what you got in your receptacle today?
Nev's got the Scotch.
It's just the H2O.
Oh right, I thought it was, you know, neat Scotch.
Is that the new name of that fine single malt?
It is, yeah,
right.
Okay.
Yes, it's the IPA H2O.
Excellent, very good. Yes, award winning. Yeah.
So moving on to the next story, and this is quite bad actually. This was in the news earlier on this week on the bbc.co.uk website, and I expect most of the people who follow the various aviation platforms will have seen the story, and its headline is Gatwick Airport worker run over by plane.
What?
And in the UK this was at Gatwick. The man who had been working on the apron guiding planes was hurt at about 5:15 on Wednesday at the North Terminal. He was injured by a Russian-bound Rossiya Airlines aircraft, a Gatwick spokesperson said. Passengers said they had been told by the crew the plane had run over a ground crew member's foot. The Air Accident Investigations Branch is investigating. The man was airlifted to hospital in London with an ankle and foot injury, the South East Coast Ambulance Service said. A spokesman for Donata, which employed the man, said, "We can confirm that a Donata UK employee was injured following an incident on the airfield at Gatwick Airport, and emergency services attended the scene. The employee has now been discharged from hospital, and we will continue to provide them with necessary support as they recover." He said the company will be working with those investigating the incident, and Salvana Medeiros Colica, who had landed at the airport from Switzerland shortly before, said that she was alerted to the drama as she made her way to the terminal. She said that she saw fire trucks, ambulances, and the police were everywhere. As I got closer, it looked like someone was under the wheel, but couldn't see because there were so many people around the person, but they could tell that someone was receiving a drip. The plane's departure was delayed until Thursday. Now this, I saw that there's some pictures on the website actually on the story, and there's also a short video as well on the bbc.co.uk's website, and this was the nose wheel of the aircraft, which actually had run over the foot, and I think this aircraft was in the process of being pushed back from the terminal, ready for departure. And you know, I think, you know, if you accidentally run over your foot whilst doing some maintenance work on your car, it would probably hurt quite a bit. This you know, is I think this was an A319. I think this was an Airbus A319. So you know, there's quite a few tons of weight there, even on, you know, the nose wheel, and I'd imagine this may have, you know, been quite a serious crushing injury on the chap here.
Yeah, I mean, it's I suppose there is that possible conversation that you could have about the fact that, you know, perhaps he should have been a little bit more aware about what was going on around him. I mean, if he's been authorised to push back, I mean, surely that authorisation is given on you know, with good reason. You know, I'm sorry that the guy is hurt, obviously.
I'd imagine now, obviously, the Accidents Investigation Board will investigate this, you know, and obviously being at the gate, I would imagine there was probably quite an array of CCTV cameras focused on the aircraft at the time. So I'd imagine they've got quite a bit of
sort of, you know, evidence
as such to see what happened. What do you think, Nev?
I think it's always the way, isn't it? The most likely collision is going to take place on the ground, isn't it, with the ground crew or other aircraft. actually flying the damn thing seems to be pretty straightforward. But certainly there are many ground incidents where people just haven't taken care or haven't followed the procedure, or somebody's made an assumption or whatever it is. I mean, I don't know if you can, Matt's just brought up the pictures. I mean, there's blood all up at the side of the aircraft there. Oh, actually, that's the logo. So
Right, okay. Yes, indeed.
But,
terrible. Absolutely terrible.
But on a serious note, I mean, you know, the ground crew are very highly trained, but things can go wrong.
They just made a mistake.
Yeah, Jennifer in the chat room said that ground crews routinely get quite close to planes, but to be next to the wheel as it pushes back seems a bit odd.
Seems as an odd choice of location, it has to be said. But, you know, I mean...
Oh, Lane's just said in the chat room, sorry, ground crew intercom plugs into the nose gear, apparently.
Does it? Oh, so it's a reasonable explanation as to why they would be there,
There we go.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, on to the next story, and this is on the Wales Online. And the headline
this is terrible.
Is holidaymakers' luggage covered in jet fuel minutes after arriving in airport. Oh dear. This is not good news. Holidaymakers found their luggage covered in jet fuel minutes after their plane landed in the Canary Islands. Passengers on the TUI flight from Bristol Airport to Fuerteventura were horrified to see their suitcases doused in jet fuel as they came off the luggage carousel at the airport. Mike Caddick was waiting by the carousel for his suitcase to come through when he noticed something was amiss. He said, "We were waiting for about an hour. An airport official came out and said something in Spanish, which I later found out was 'don't spark a cigarette lighter,'" the 61-year-old told the Bristol Post. The suitcases started to come out with drips on them, but it got gradually worse. Mine was absolutely soaked in it. That's not good, really, is it? It's Henry Thomas's bag also came off the carousel covered in jet fuel. The 51-year-old said, "I'm not sure why the ages are relevant in regard to this particular story. It's like, because obviously a 51-year-old is more likely to tell the truth than a 21-year-old, I guess." But anyway, there we are. We spent 2 hours waiting with no information. None of the bags should have been sent into the airport. They started to come out soaked with fuel pouring out of them. Yeah, unbelievable. The passengers had to take their luggage to the hotel and assess the damage from there. Mr. Caddick added, "I got to the hotel and everything was wrecked. There seemed to be no procedure for this happening. People shouldn't be standing by the plane." The following morning, Mr. Thomas claims TUI representatives at the hotel told affected passengers who were wearing the same clothes as the day before to go and buy more clothes. They would be reimbursed. He said that they were given new suitcases while their sodden clothes were dry cleaned. Mr. Thomas said, "I don't know, would dry cleaning have any impact on jet fuel planes? I mean, clothes. It's just it's all a bit of a mess, really, isn't it?" So anyway, he said they'd given new suitcases. Mr. Thomas said that he and other passengers spent the next 2 mornings meeting with reps and again being told to go out and buy new clothes. He claims he was offered £50 in compensation, which he said he had refused to accept. He said to come back and be told you're only going to get £50 is unbelievable. I just want to be compensated. A spokesman for TUI apologised for the incident and said that they were now investigating what happened. She said, "We're sorry to hear that customers experience about the customers' experiences at Fuerteventura Airport. We understand that this would have been a disappointing start to their holiday, and in light of this, we've arranged for all of our customers who are impacted to have complimentary laundering of their clothes." Well, that's very good of them. And offered a replacement suitcase. All customers were also offered the additional gesture of goodwill to apologise for their experience. "We'd like to reassure customers that health and safety is of paramount importance to us, and we are in the process of conducting a full investigation into the incident."
Do you know, I cannot believe that the airport, if they knew this had happened, I cannot believe that they gave the passengers these suitcases back.
Very bizarre,
I mean, apart from being damaged and pretty much ruined,
yes.
I mean, it only takes. I mean, that stuff is quite flammable.
Is it?
And it was it's just a health and safety nightmare. There's a few comments in the chat room actually.
Is there? Go
on. We've got Lisboa Nelson says that Jet A1 scent is absolutely brilliant. It smells like victory. And Liz Piper, lovely Liz, has said that she loves the smell of jet fuel, but not all over her bag.
No, I don't think that. Yeah, I can see why.
Richard King says he loves the smell of burnt jet fuel, and Jen Niffer said, "Oh, I love the smell of Jet A1, but there are limits."
Yeah, and again, I don't think dry cleaning your clothes is going to be enough to deal with the nightmare that is your clothes. I mean, because surely that'll stain.
Would this have upset you, Nev?
No, it probably wouldn't actually, because I'd make sure I kept it in the room and gave it a quick sniff every.
Oh dear! Oh dear! Okay, so
I think the trouble is with.
Is there a Jet Fuels Anonymous that Nev can attend? Is there some kind of meeting that he can go for his?
But actually, situation? It probably will evaporate fairly quickly. Although, of course, if it's got inside the bag and all the, your clothes are contaminated, that won't be very nice, will it?
No, a bit of a mess, really. I think.
Yeah, bit of a smelly mess.
Yes.
So the last story then, and
yes, and it's another good news story. I'm pleased to say on AirSoc. Is that airsociety.com? Anyway,
let's say yes. Why not?
It's about the Boeing 737, and they have delivered the 10,000th 737 to Air Canada since the single-aisle program was launched 53 years ago.
Wow.
The landmark delivery happened to involve the company's latest product, the 737 MAX 8, one of 10 major variants of the aircraft, including commercial, military and private versions still in active production. The 10,000th delivery caps a busy month for the 737 program. Within the last 2 weeks, the Renton, Washington-based assembly line has also witnessed the first flight of the 737 MAX 7 and the first delivery of the 737 MAX 9. More than 4,500 NG and 737 MAX aircraft remain in Boeing's order backlog, even as Boeing has more than doubled the production rate over the last 12 years to 47 deliveries per month. Boeing launched the program in February 1965 with a launch order for 21 737s by Lufthansa. It's a big aircraft with seating up to 100, Flight International wrote in the 4th of March 1965 issue. 53 years later, one variant now in development, the 737 MAX 10, can seat up to 230 passengers in a single-class configuration. The 737's longevity owes as much to the type's far-reaching appeal as it does to multiple escapes from Boeing's plans to terminate production. The 737 was first on the chopping block in the early 1970s as orders dried up amidst a global recession. Boeing leaders seriously considered an offer by the Japanese aerospace industry to acquire the design and production rights for the 737. Ultimately, the program was saved by an order from the US Air Force for 737-based NT-43A trainers, which kept production alive long enough for Boeing to realize the type's potential in the market following the US Airline Deregulation Act in 1978. By the mid-1980s, Boeing had introduced the 737 Classic series, but was already preparing to replace the type with the ambitious 7J7. Boeing had invested more than $500 million into the 7J7 target before determining that its unducted fan propulsion technology was unfeasible. Instead, Boeing introduced the next generation series of the 737 in the late 1990s, featuring a glass cockpit, improved engine, and a redesigned wing. A decade later, both Boeing commercial airplanes had set their sights on replacing the 737NG series with a clean sheet aircraft under the new single-aisle aircraft program. But then Airbus attracted more than 800 firm orders within 8 months of the launch of the A320neo in December 2010. That forced Boeing leaders to shelve plans to introduce the new single-aisle aircraft. Instead, Boeing launched the re-engined 737 MAX family with a launch order from Southwest Airlines in December 2011. Although not a clean sheet replacement, Boeing promised the 737 MAX would deliver up to 16% fuel savings compared to the 737NG, with an all-new engine, advanced technology winglet, re-lofted tail cone and large cockpit displays. There's no question about it. This aircraft has been incredible in service, and it's changed the way that people have been flying. And it's hard to believe that the original 737 was launched 53 years ago.
frightening, isn't it?
It's amazing, yeah.
And of course, you know, I mean, you've got the likes of Ryanair and things who are running the
800,
the 800 variant, aren't they? And you know, they're just such a popular aircraft, aren't they?
I think there's probably. I think you could probably. Everyone who's in the live chat room now in YouTube
has been on one.
You know, I think you'll probably find that nearly everyone in that chat room has probably been on a 737 variant of some type. You know, over the years. I mean, I've been lucky enough to go on the 200 series a number of times when I was growing up, which was obviously one of the old steam gauge 737s, and fantastic bit of kit they were as well. But Nev, I'm guessing you've had your fair share of trips on a 73.
Yeah, I think I've been on 737-200 to Belfast a couple of times. I'm sure I've been on some Monarch aircraft. I've been on a lot of British Midland 737-300s and 400s over the years, and also when BA had their 737-400 fleet at Gatwick for the shuttle services and also for the holiday destinations. But yeah, what a classic aircraft, and it's amazing that they've had this amount of longevity out of it. But to think that the latest generation can actually carry 230 people, that's incredible, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Lane Street in the chat room just said, he said 737, the Jurassic series. I think that's quite
I think Nick would probably
harsh.
But just a quick quiz for you, Matt. How much the new Max 10, the 737 Max 10, the biggest variant of the new 737 Max, how much this is Boeing list prices. This is released this year,
right?
How much to buy one of those, do you reckon? Have a
buy
guess.
One of those, I would say £105 million.
Okay, Nev.
I would
Max
say
10, the biggest one.
£45 million.
The list price of the Max 10 737 is $129.9 million.
Is your maths good enough to work out which one of us two was right?
Not at the moment, no.
We'll call it a draw, shall we, Nev?
Yeah, I think you both got that one right. Okay. Yeah, but it's safe to say it's quite expensive.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Yeah.
So that brings the commercial news segment of the show to a close for this week. Hope you enjoyed all those stories, and we have got we've got a very special segment coming up for you now. So Nev, we're going to pass things over to you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Yeah, as you may know, last week I was over in the Barn studio just assessing the new studio facility. And
no, you were just checking out his handiwork. That's the only reason you were here. You were making sure it was secure and safe and sound. We were having a site safety visit. That's what we were having.
That's right, yes. I had to sign a few things off. But,
yes.
Just before we started the show, of course, the very lovely Sarah Brown and her daughter Charlotte had a chat with me about their latest passenger experience. Hello and welcome to another in the series of Nev's passenger experience. Well, this week I'm in the town of Bungay, where I'm chatting to Sarah Brown and her daughter Charlotte. This is the home of Sarah Brown Cards, and Sarah has very generously allowed us to build the new PT UK studio in her barn. She also happens to be Matt's boss. Well, Carlos has already done some sterling work with construction of the studio, and we'll be fitting it out with the rest of the gear in the next few weeks. Whilst I was there, I had the chance to speak with Sarah and Charlotte about their recent trip to Las Vegas. Sadly, though, the flights weren't up to much, as you'll hear, and I began by asking Sarah what carrier she used to cross the Atlantic.
On a BA flight. And we went specifically for the purpose of the vet show that they have out there, and we were doing a stand at the vet show. So that's the reason we went.
Nice. So BA, obviously, nice company, very modern aircraft. Must have been absolutely pristine inside, I would imagine. That the service would have been fantastic.
I'm sorry, Nev. I have to say on this instant, no. I was, my words were, I think I'm just disappointed, because the only other BA flight was when Charlotte and I went to New York 5 years ago on a BA flight, and that's the first time I'd been with them, and I raved about it. The flight was superb. The flight attendants were very attentive. The aeroplane was clean. It was all wonderful. Hence, I wanted to go again with BA. But this was sadly more or less the total opposite. You know, I have to say, the plane looked tired. I know they are older planes, you know, I've been told that, but this was scruffy and needed a bit more TLC.
And was it the same in both directions?
It was. They were both planes that we were told by one little flight attendant, this plane's older than I am, and she was 24. So obviously, you know, the plane was 25 years plus, which was fine. And it certainly worked very well. It got us there and it got us back. But it was the sheer shoddiness. You know, the seats were torn and a lot of them didn't sit upright anymore. The attendants apologised, but they were broken. Those seats weren't adequate, really.
What about the cabin crew? What about the service and the meals?
The way I felt about it, the original flight I went on 5 years ago, to me, it was just wonderful. I couldn't believe it. The service was absolutely superb. They couldn't have been nicer. We were, you know, looked after superbly. This time, no, not so much. Going to Las Vegas was okay, but coming back, no, I felt the service was not good at all. The food was diabolical. And my daughter, who is sort of a vegetarian, asked for a dish. I think it was something like I can't remember now, but she was she was offered in the end a mushroom breakfast burrito, which actually I had, and it wasn't very nice. And she said, no, I don't like mushrooms. But they offered her no alternative, and I felt that was quite bad. Do
you think, I mean, obviously, this aircraft that you were on, I think is going to be flying until 2024 before they replace the 747. But they are due to do some cabin refits and so on. Do you think if they'd have done that the cabin was nice and clean, that you'd have been a better experience for you?
As I said, it was adequate, because the plane got us there and got us back in reasonable comfort. But it just looked shoddy, you know, with torn seats and seats that didn't sit up properly. You know, they could do with a bit of a refurb and a bit of a general tidy up, definitely. Some
of the aircraft I've been on recently have been definitely a bit substandard when it comes to the cabin itself, yes.
Yes, you know, it's as I said to several people have asked me, I'm quite sad because I was so overjoyed with that first flight I took. I was really looking forward to this one. In fact, we deliberately booked BA, which was slightly more expensive than some of the other airlines, you know, Virgin or Norwegian, I think, yeah, they were. But we chose BA because of this lovely experience we had. And it's sad, but it didn't come up to scratch.
Do you agree with all that, Charlotte?
Yes, I do. I think it was probably the worst flight I've ever been on, to be honest. And because you're sitting on there for 10, 12 hours. Yeah, it was horrendous. Everything about it was filthy, it was dirty. The food, the staff, the loos were disgusting. The TV options and films were not good at all.
And was it a very busy flight as well?
Well, you say that. Yes, I'd say it was on the way home, but as they make you walk through business class so you can see what's going on there first, as they're all getting champagne, and then you're going on. We were the last on, and I counted 9 spare seats. And there was a gentleman next to Mum, and he wanted to have more legroom. He was right in the aisle. And I said to him, just ask, because there's empty seats up there. And so he did ask, and they said, no, we can't put you up there even though they're empty.
What do you think that other people thought of it? Did you get the impression that other people felt the same way too?
Everyone was whinging about it. as we all got off the plane, we were all whinging about it. There was a girl behind me who I got chatting to, and she was stuffing carrier bags down the back of her chair to make because there was a big gap, to make them meet so that she could actually sit upright on the aeroplane on the way home. Everyone was just whinging about the staff, and you'd press the button. You didn't have, there was the aircon thing. We didn't have our own aircon thing, and so some people were freezing, some were hot. It was just, everything about it was awful. Everyone just could not wait to get off.
I can't think of a single nice thing that you said about this flight at all.
There's nothing good about this flight. And there's nothing. I will never fly with them again, ever, because they charge more than anybody else, and they're not worth it.
If you're paying for the premium service, that's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, and I inquired, because I changed our flights coming home. That cost me £500 to change our flights. Wasn't happy about that. And then I just inquired and said, have you got anything in business or first, or what have you got? And she said, well, you can go first at £12,000 each. I said, no, I won't do that then. So everything about it, I've flown with United, who everyone says are a pain in the whatever, and I would say their flights are better and their staff are better.
That's a damning indictment indeed on which to end, isn't it? That United is better than BA. My goodness me, I never thought I'd ever hear someone say that. Well, I'm very sorry, ladies, to hear that. I shall try and have a word for you and see if we're...
Well, we can get free stuff. If we get free stuff, we'll forgive them.
Right, leave it to me. I'll have a word.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
thevoicesinyourhead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself, and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23 Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2TME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed-base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com, or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
Well, I have to say, Nev, apart from that being a sterling piece of production, as always, from you, your BA had rather a...
had a bit of a bashing.
Yes. Yeah. Sadly, this is all too common. And we are hearing this more and more, especially on the 744 fleet and on the 767 fleet as well. And the problem is that they need to get more. Well, those 744s aren't being retired, as I said, until 2024, I think. But they're always doing cabin upgrades and all the rest of it. But if it's not right, whether it's the staff, whether it's the facilities, whether it's the food, almost whatever it is, and unfortunately now what's happened is especially the Middle Eastern carriers are head and shoulders above them.
Above the rest,
on so many things. And I think that they have to really improve their products now. This has been in decline for a little while.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, we were talking about this afterwards, weren't we, actually, when you'd finished recording, and one of the things that we're saying is, like, and you mentioned it during it, is actually, you know, you're being made, essentially, you're paying over the odds, if you like, for that same trip. You could do that same chip with Virgin for much less, and it is significant, you know, it's quite a bit per head less, and you have a much better experience for that less money. You know, so I mean, it's like, you know, I know the CEO has got a sort of low cost background and all that kind of thing, but, you know, you can't, it's all right. You know, I mean, they would say, like, you'd much rather fly with Norwegian, just literally because, you know, you're getting what you pay for. So, all right, you've got no frills, but you're not expecting anything either, as long as you've got a working toilet. Do you know what I mean? It's.
I mean, Nev, do you think BA do better with their short haul than they do with their long haul, service-wise?
They've always had a very good short-haul network, whether it's the UK or the European routes or the holiday routes down to the Canary Islands, that kind of thing. I think they do those very well, and certainly Sue and I really enjoy flying with them on those sorts of routes. On the long-haul routes, especially Middle East, but more and more to the US as well, there's a lot of alternatives now, and I think that they... whether it's the aircraft cleanliness, I mean, I don't think anybody really minds going on an old aircraft as long as she said, as long as the thing gets you there. But more importantly, you are paying a premium price for this, certainly. And if you want some special leg room or a bit of an upgrade here or there, you know, it is a very substantial uplift in cost. And really, it's very difficult to justify it. So every time I'm flying for work, if I want to upgrade myself, I've got to pay for it myself. And normally, if it's a few thousand Avios points to do it, or, you know, a bit of money, I don't mind. But it never is with BA. It's always very expensive.
Very expensive, yeah.
Jordan Rose in the chat room has said that he's got a BA business class trip coming up in July, giving him another chance. He says, Jordan, if you like, if you could send us when you've had that trip in July, if you remember to
time for a Nev's passenger experience.
Send us in some feedback on what that was like, and give us your views.
I don't think the problem is in business class, is it? I mean, let's be honest. I think if you are paying those kind of prices, I mean, okay, first obviously £12,000, as they were saying in the during the segment, but I mean, you know, I think if you were in business class, I don't think they're going to have a bad experience.
Their business class product's not bad. It's not the best by any means, and the last time I flew it was from no, actually it was on United, wasn't it, from Washington? But the last time before that was Orlando in business class, and that wasn't bad, I've got to say. I'm going to try and go to Las Vegas in June. I'm going to try and get a business class for that one, just see how that goes. But it's there's a lot of competition out there now, and there are carriers doing it better.
They've got it, no question at all. Sad, but true.
Yeah. So, as you can see, if you're in the YouTube live chat room, we have some podcast royalty joined us. Captain Nick is in the live chat room there. And funnily enough, we actually had some feedback sent in to us from Captain Nick early this week. And it was regarding a certain faux pas made by Matt last week.
I have to confess, I didn't even realise I'd done it. I didn't even realise it. Yeah, apparently so. But the only reason I was aware that I clearly made a terrible error, because my Twitter went bananas. I've never seen my Twitter react. So I thought, oh, suddenly I'm really, really popular, and there was lots of really bad things going on there. I've never had so many direct messages. Really, I haven't.
So, are you going on holiday to Vienna at all soon?
Yes, that's a sort of 20-something or other hour flight, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. So, so if you're ready, Matt, we're going to play out
basically, what's going to happen is I'm now going to get told off by Captain Nick. So here we go.
Hello, Matt and Carlos. It's the old pilot here. Oh, I was just listened to your last show, and I have just got to leave some feedback. I'm sorry, guys. But, Matt, say again, which country is Vienna in? If it's in Australia, then Nicky Lauda's going to have to find some airliners with a lot longer range than an A321 to reach it. Here, by the way, are some little-known facts about Australia by a nice blogger called Tim Powell. I'm going to let you into a secret, and you have to promise not to tell anybody. Can you do that? Good. To find Vienna, first you have to make your way to Adelaide. Take a commercial jet, take the train, do whatever. Just make sure you end up in Adelaide, not Addis Ababa. This is very important, as it's an easy mistake to make, but it's quite a long return journey to make because of a mistake. Once you've arrived in Adelaide, you want to find your way to a car hire depot. A four-wheel drive vehicle is highly recommended. From there, you will want to set course for Cooper PD. Pack lots of water, as it tends to get rather warm there. This is a long drive, so be prepared to need at least one overnight stop to rest up. Personally, I would recommend you stop in either Port Augusta, not Port Moresby, or Roxy Downs. Once you've made it to Cooper PD, find the Opal Museum. When you find it, approach a local and ask them to open the gate for you. They will know what this means. Follow them till you reach a hidden gateway halfway down an old mine shaft. The local will knock 3 times. Beyond the gate is a seemingly endless narrow tunnel. Follow it. The walk is long and rife with spiders and snakes, but with common sense you'll be fine. You still following? Excellent. Eventually you will reach a barred iron door. A guard will ask you for a password, which you must reply, Vegemite. Take care to make yourself sound as an Australian as possible, as the guards don't take too kindly to foreigners. If you manage to get past the guard, from here it's a simple matter of walking down 5,362 stairs. Finally, once you reach the bottom, the passage will open up into a massive cavern lit by a gigantic floating orb. A sprawling metropolis waits below. Welcome to Vienna, Australia. Oh, I almost forgot to warn you, Vienna is where we hide all our drop bears. For whatever reason, they seem to like it down there, so be careful. From my own perspective, there is a little bit of Australia in Vienna, which you can find at the Australian Embassy. Only joking, an embassy, whilst having many special privileges, such as immunity from and the protection of the host nation, the ground in it is not actually part of the mission. So, should anyone feel inclined to give birth within the bounds of an embassy, your child won't be a citizen of that country. Now, to the main point of my feedback. Matt, not every aircraft accident is going to end up in your burning airliner tent pegging itself into the ground at 1,000 miles an hour. The NTSB will tell you that for the past 2 decades, the survivability rate in an aircraft accident is as high as 95.7%. The European Transport Council has also examined the survivability of aircraft accidents worldwide, estimating that 90% are survivable, where no passengers died, or technically survivable, where at least one occupant survives. Most of these fatalities were a result of impact and fire-related factors, including smoke inhalation after impact. So, the importance of safety features such as adopting a good brace position or having airbags can't be overemphasized, as if you can remain conscious and fit enough to move after an accident, then you'll be in a much better position to escape the aircraft. So, don't assume that even if the worst happens, it's a foregone conclusion. Keep your wits about you, and there's a very good chance of a good outcome. Bye, guys.
Well, I think it's safe to say I've been well and truly told off. Although I have to be honest with you, it was worth making said faux pas, if only because it means we get fantastic feedback.
I know.
Thank you, Captain Nick.
Thank you, Captain Nick.
That was very much appreciated. And yeah,
I felt like it was my English teacher from many years ago telling me off for putting the apostrophe in the wrong place.
Oh dear. Well, there is that.
But, anyway, yeah, great feedback, Nick. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So I'm going to try and make as many errors as I can during most shows to ensure that we get great feedback from Captain Nick. So anyway, thanks very much for that. Yes, and I've only been allowed to return to my desk. I was being made by Carlos to stand in the corner of the barn whilst that was being played, but it's only because he can't operate the desk from here is why I was allowed to come back to my chair. So yeah, there we are. I'm officially.
So thanks again for that, Nick. As always, you are a legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for those of you in the live YouTube chat room, you'll have also seen another person in the chat room by the name of Andrew Wilson.
Yeah.
So Nev, passing over to you.
Yes, rather confusingly, of course, we know two Andrew Wilsons, so I'm not quite sure which one is in the chat room.
Right, good point. Yes,
But anyway, we'll see how we get on. But this Andrew Wilson very kindly sent in an interview that he did with Mark Lewis, and it's a fascinating insight, actually. And Mark is from the Royal Aeronautical Society, and we've got it now. So let's have a listen to it.
Good afternoon. I'm here at the Institute of Aeronautical Technology in the University of Nottingham, and I'm here with Mark Lewis, who's the chief test pilot for Rolls-Royce aero engines. So Mark, can you give me a description of what you've flown and your career in general?
Yeah, sure. I started flying with the Air Training Corps, the RAF Air Cadets, back in 1982. My first solo was on an open cockpit wooden glider as a 16-year-old, and it all went from there. So I did what they used to call a flying scholarship in the Air Cadets a year after my gliding, and then after university I joined the RAF full-time in 1991. I went through the training system. I worked in aviation medicine for a while because I had originally intended to be in the medical branch of the RAF, but I changed branches to fly. So I was flying the Hawk in a research role for aviation medicine. All the G protection equipment that you see now in the Eurofighter was being tested at that time. My next job was flying the Harrier on the front line, based in Laarbruch in Germany, near the Dutch border. And after that tour, I went to Boscombe Down in Wiltshire to do the Empire Test Pilots School course, a 12-month course in '99. And from there, I spent 7 or 8 years test flying in the Air Force and teaching test flying in the Air Force before I left in 2006. I went to Cathay Pacific in Hong Kong to fly the 747-200, and then shortly after that the opportunity to do flight test in Rolls-Royce arose, and I've been with Rolls-Royce now for 10 years doing mainly propulsion flight test, but flying quite a large variety of different aircraft, some vintage aircraft like the Spitfire, and also our 747 flying testbed.
Very varied flying. So tell me about the Spitfire then, quite an icon.
So the Spitfire is just the biggest privilege to go into a new career, a job with Rolls-Royce, and find that coming with that as a company pilot is the opportunity to fly a Mark 19 Spitfire, photo reconnaissance Spitfire, which has the Griffin engine. It's the biggest engine available on the Spitfire. Beautifully maintained, immaculately engineered, and priceless museum piece of World War II. It flew operational photo recce missions in World War II, photographing the V2 rocket sites in Peenemünde. And it's flown off and on since early 1945. The airplane's been with Rolls since 1995. And although it hasn't flown for the last 3 years because of a number of technical problems, we should see it back on the airshow circuit later this year.
Any plans for any specific air shows? Do you think it might be?
Not just yet. Waiting to make sure that the airplane is in good shape and that all 4 display pilots, there are 4 of us who fly it, are back up to speed. And then we'll see, once that training is all progressing well, what scope there is for displays this year.
Excellent. Excellent. Pleased to see it back in there again.
Oh, very much so. It's been a frustrating time waiting for the engineering fixes to go in. But it's just one of those things with old aircraft and old engines. Sometimes we run into issues, and because we value the airplane so much, it's priceless. There's no rushing the process. It has to be exactly right before we fly.
Okay, tell me what today in the life of a chief test pilot is.
Well, no 2 weeks are the same for me. It's a very varied job. I can be in Arizona, where our 747 flying test bed is based. And the raison d'etre for that airplane is to test fly the Trent 1000 engine, which is the Boeing 787 power plant. We've been doing that for a number of years. We're still not done with it. There's a number of improvements going into the engine. There's a number of research flight trials on new technology coming, including a lean burn combustion system that we'll be testing next year. And then looking to the future, the next generation of large Rolls-Royce engines, we would be expecting to test those in the air on a flying test bed, either this test bed or perhaps a replacement, sometime in the next 4 or 5 years.
Excellent, excellent. Before I let you go, I'll just ask you this one final question. If you could fly any aircraft, either historical or current, what would your choice be?
I think I would like to go back to the F-14 Tomcat. I was lucky enough to fly about 5 trips on the F-14D with the US Navy back in '99 as part of my test pilot training, and I enjoyed it so much. It was just such a iconic airplane, full of challenges, full of handling qualities, vices, full of difficulties, but full of power and full of history. A fantastic airplane to fly, a huge airplane for a fighter. And of course they've stopped flying the F-14 now, but if I had a chance to go and fly something of choice, that would be it.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I have to say, that was really, really well done. Big round of applause.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, very good.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And yes, I've just got to apologise because obviously I was looking at a section about the Royal Aeronautical Society when I was reading that piece out. Of course, Mark Lewis is the chief test pilot for Rolls-Royce Aero Engines.
Fantastic.
And very much thanks to Andrew for doing that interview. Absolutely superb. And really interesting insight into.
Yeah, I think Andrew had caught up with him actually. He'd just given a talk or a lecture or something with the Royal Aeronautical Society. Right. So yeah. But no, Andrew, absolutely fantastic job with that. Well done. Yeah. So that's how easy it is, guys and girls, is to do these kind of bits and pieces for the show. If you want to send us in. If you get a chance to interview anyone like that, then do send us in to the
if we get it, we will always play it out, so you don't have to worry. You're not wasting your time, I can promise you. If you send us anything like that, we will always play it out, because it's great to hear from our listeners. And let's be honest, they do a far better job than you or I do.
I have to say the quality as well. Me and Matt were commenting the audio quality of that was really good as well.
Nice little bit of stereo left and right.
Yeah,
very nice.
I wonder whether Andrew used a Tascam.
Yeah, I wonder what device he used. Andrew, what device? Because he's in the chat room. He is in the chat room. So what device did you use, just out of interest, Andrew? Because the quality was absolutely brilliant. It really was. So, Nev, you and I are officially redundant. That's great news.
Oh, yeah, no point.
We'll hand over the show to the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next week, the hosts will be everyone in the chat room.
Everyone in the chat room. They'll do a far better job than us, let's be honest. But, no, brilliant. Again, thank you so much, Andrew. It was very warmly received. If you want to do something similar, all you have to do is bung an email to us. So it is podcast@planetalkinguk.com. That is podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Nev's passenger experience. We'd like to hear from you if you've had any good or bad flight experience. If there's anything you'd like to say about,
if you want to bash BA,
well, other airlines are available for a good bashing. It has to be said. Again, podcast@planetalkinguk.com. That's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Our Facebook handle is facebook.com/planetalkinguk, and you'll find us on Twitter with the handle @planetalkinguk.
So don't forget, next week on the show we have got Andy Coulson joining us, and Andy is he's operations, airside operations manager, or coordinator for the Farnborough Air Show. So Andy has the job of putting all the infrastructure in place ready for the Farnborough Air Show, which is happening later on this year in July, which we're all going to. So that's on next week's show. So we'll have him on the show, and we're going to have a good old chat with Andy about what it takes to put everything together for Farnborough.
And if you want to catch the show live, we're going to be doing that next Friday, so that's a week today, so it will be Friday the 6th of April. Is that right? The 6th of April?
I'm just looking. Yes,
yeah,
it is
Friday
the
6th of April is when we're going to do that, and we're going to have a start time of 7 p.m.
Yes.
We've just got to work out the final logistics, because I'm actually not going to be in East Anglia, but there we are. But the plan is to start at 7 p.m. as per normal, as I say, and do please, if you're not able to join us live, do please send us any questions you want us to ask him to podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Obviously, if you're able to join us live as per normal, then you can get your questions in using the chat room. But that's it, guys. Yeah.
So we're going to say a massive thanks to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube live chat room this evening. There's been loads of people in there tonight. It's been a really good show. So big thanks to everyone who's taken time out of their Friday to join us.
It was a Zoom H4n recording device. Do you know? Are you familiar with that?
The Zooms are very good.
Are they? Right. Okay.
Stephen Grant used those over at PCDU. Yeah.
Okay, not actually that bad in price wise. Actually, 124 quid.
Just before we go, there was that chap that sent us some feedback in, Captain Nick.
I've heard of him.
He does this thing on another podcast.
He does,
Plain Tales, that you might have heard of. And on the airlinepilotguide.com website is now a compilation of nearly all of the ones that he's done so far. And Liz, Hims and Nick and Jeff have done a fantastic job of compiling it all. I just thought I would mention it on the show, because I think it's actually a huge amount of work, and I've just posted that in the chat room. But if you want to go and have a look at it, it's airlinepilotguide.com/Plain Tales. That's all one
indeed.
word.
And don't make the mistake I did. It's Plain Tales is spelt PLANETALES. For some reason I put as in tail, as in plain tail, the fin of a plane.
Oh, okay.
So, so it is. But that's probably just me being very special. So
we don't really do aviation, do we? So
no, I don't.
But I tell you,
I'm quite rubbish at this.
For those of you who obviously, we all listen to the Airline Pilot Guy show, and we all listen to Nick's Plain Tales, and this is an awesome source to be able to go back and pick the ones that you really enjoyed, download and listen to them. And there's quite a few on there that I will be certainly picking this week. So get yourselves over there.
Yeah, well done, Nev. I've forgotten all about that.
So had I, until I was prompted.
Very good. See, this is why we love the chat room.
Good old chat room.
Indeed.
So again, thanks everyone for joining us, and also we're not forgetting as well all the many people who download the show, via iTunes and all the various podcast platforms.
And by the way, if you're a Spotify user, it is also available.
We're not on Spotify.
We are now officially on Spotify as well. So if you want to, if you use Spotify, which I know I do, there is a segment in there all about podcasts, and we are now listed in there, so you've got no excuse, guys, to listen to the show offline as well. So we're available from there. But all other good, anyone that does podcasts that are worth any salt whatsoever, we are in amongst them now. That's what we like to say.
So that is where we're going to bring episode number 210 to a close. Just leaves me to say a massive thanks to Nev. You've been an absolute legend as always. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us on again. And really enjoyed today as always.
And don't forget to join us next week for that special show with Andy Coulson. That'll be really good. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, so from all of us here then, everybody here, everybody have an amazing Easter.
Have a great weekend.
I hope the Easter Bunny brings you billions of eggs.
Billions.
So that you're, and you'll...
I'm on a diet.
And you'll all end up the size I am by the end of the weekend. That is your goal, everyone. All right, get stuck in. Yeah. So from all of us here in the studio, it's time to say goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Woo.
Bye.